Grande. Welcome into the Better Baseball MLB DFS Playbook broadcast here on the Better Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm social channels. James, it's been a little bit since you and I have been live together. You handled the ship well while I was away off in Las Vegas for my bachelor party, but I was tuning in. I was in the chat. I saw you champion our Nico Horner friend there while Mr. Howard Bender was besmirching his name, and he goes on and homers for us here. Some pretty good shows, but I'm happy to be back and breaking down a pretty strong 9-game slate here today.
Happy to have you back. Happy to see there's no... I mean, I didn't ask if you stole a tiger, but that's, I guess you could have. Maybe Mike Tyson's tiger. That, you don't have a tattoo on your face. That's good. You have all your teeth, as I think we can all see. Doesn't seem like The Hangover Part 2 happened for you, or Part 3. And I guess there's been 2 movies,
I will say
right?
there was another bachelor party there where everybody did have a stenciled on, I hope, Mike Tyson tattoo eye thing. I don't know why. That was what their go-to was. But yeah, the entire bachelor party crew was walking around with an eye tattoo. That was interesting.
I wonder if that's just like what people do. Like, that's just like people show up to Vegas like, oh yeah, okay, that's another, yep, we've seen that a bunch of times. Like, that's just what happens in Vegas.
Right.
Happy to have you back. It was Henry Wilson did a great job in your steed. Dan Servadidio as well. Howard Bender on the broadcast on the Better Sports Network every morning at 9 a.m. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. Worked with a lot of different people, but Scotty and MJ back together.
Yeah, 100% here. And like I said, Bender's on the playbook for today's slate. We got 9 games to get to. James, you and I, of course, did our first look pod this morning. Released out to everybody there. You can kind of get an early feel of where we were at. We looked at some Vegas totals, kind of broke down the slate, but now we have a clearer picture of what's going on with these batting lineups now released. We can check in on any movement on lines here. So why don't we head on over to Vegas, James, and break down what we're looking at here today.
Yeah, there wasn't anything significant in terms of movement. The biggest favorites kind of remain the biggest favorites. Jose Barrios and the Blue Jays minus 210. I guess I'd open at minus 185. So, the money line, people have been hammering the Blue Jays money line. The Mets and Buto minus 200. That's just product of the Nationals being terrible. Charlie Morton minus 230 on DraftKings Sportsbook. He faces up against the Miami Marlins, who just got absolutely obliterated by Spencer Strider on Monday. And then, it's all just Eric Lauer, I guess, is a pretty sizable favorite, minus 175. He opened minus 160 or so. And then Griffin Canning minus 165, which is actually down from 185. So that's the only really money line that we've seen dip. And I think maybe people paying some respects to the Oakland Athletics of last night, who scored a million runs and could have had more if not for a Taylor Ward robbed grand slam at the end of that game. So maybe a little respect being
there
paid
shouldn't
to
be
Oakland.
any. Not tonight.
Should not.
You knew Oakland last night against Suarez. Suarez, absolute garbage can this year. I can't imagine he'll be sticking around in that rotation for much longer.
No.
We've started to see some of the bad pitchers in baseball find their way into DFA land. Mad Bum, sadly, hit dust, there. So
sadly for our DFS lineups.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Patrick Corbin, Madison Bumgarner, Jose Urena, Jose Suarez so far this year, kind of the automatic stacks. We were eventually losing them one by one here, and after the A's are just hanging and banging there against Suarez, you got to think he'll be soon to be hitting the bench.
When we look at over-unders, the only real movement, John, has been in the KC Arizona game, back up to 10 in certain places. Opened at 9.5. DraftKings currently showing 10. BetMGM, it's at 10. So again, interesting money line in that game. It was 10 yesterday. It's been bet up to 9 pretty much across the board in Detroit, Milwaukee. Opened at 8.5. Same thing can be said for Miami, Atlanta. That's across the board, sitting at 9 across all different sports books. And then Toronto and Chicago opened up at 9.5, now at 9. So those are the only games really with significant movement or any movement at all. We have a couple games Yankees Twins 6.5 tonight, John. That is low. I think
Yeah.
that's partly due to how poor both offenses have been and how good the pitching matchup is. Because I think you and I would both agree that's probably the best pitching matchup of the night.
Yeah, Ryan Cortez for
Yeah,
sure.
so 6.5 in that game total. Snell steals 7.5. So some ugly totals that we do have some game environments to take.
Yeah, with that Padres Cubs game here, we got cold weather, we got wind blowing in
Right.
as well in this game here. Around 10 or so miles an hour. Not like massive wind, but we always talk about the wind in Wrigley. It's blowing in tonight. Blake Snell, Justin Steele in that pitching matchup there. James, before we get to breaking down today's slate here, I got to let everybody know what we got going on this week. It's NFL draft week, and Fantasy Alarm has all the fantasy football and betting content you need to prepare for the NFL draft and the upcoming season, featuring Britt Flynn's mock draft, rookie scouting reports, NFL team needs, player projections, our premium Discord chat, and more. And for a limited time, we got a deal going on right now. Get the complete NFL package plus all access to DFS content here for all sports, baseball, NBA, hockey, MMA, PGA, you name it, we cover it here. For the all-pro additional discount here of 20% on the annual price. So that's a promo code NFL Draft at fantasyalarm.com. Promo code NFL Draft gets you 20% off of the annual all-pro package. You go to fantasyalarm.com, click on the pricing tab, you go to fantasyalarm.com/all-pro, click on the annual package there and use promo code NFL Draft to save you 20% off the annual price there. We talk MLB, fantasy baseball, MLB DFS here on this show, but hard to ignore the fact that the NFL draft is coming up at the end of this week, and we have plenty to talk about as we approach that day there. So go check it out now. Limited time only offer there. You see it in the bottom left corner if you're watching it on our stream here. 20% off the additional discount that we already got going on there with promo code NFL Draft. So with that housekeeping out of the way here, James, let's break it down. Let's go into the main slate. 9 games, starting pitching here. You mentioned already maybe the best pitching matchup on the board includes Joe Ryan and Nestor Cortez. Well, they are 2 of the top 3 price starters on the slate. Joe Ryan there at $10,500, Cortez at $9,900. Wedged in between them, you have Justin Steele at home at $10,100 against the Padres. Has much changed for you here when it comes to ranking the top 3 today?
I mean, not really. From what I remember, Ryan and Cortez were 1 and 2 in my rankings in no specific order. I just think I preferred them. I could get to any 3. I mean, especially considering the cold weather in Chicago and winds blowing in, like that does favor Justin Steele. And although he is 10-1 and he's significantly more than a couple pitchers that you and I like, Justin Steele has as much strikeout upside, I think, as anyone else on the slate. Maybe the highest strikeout appeal, maybe of anyone. Maybe Lauer, maybe Morton, maybe Snell.
Ryan managed 10 strikeouts in back-to-back starts against Houston and the Yankees. Came down a little bit against the Red Sox there, but you talk a lot. You're a Yankees fan, but you don't hold any biases here. You know that lineup swings and misses a lot. Once you kind of get to that second half of the lineup, especially tonight, if you look at the Yankees lineup, you guys got like Aaron Hicks hitting 9th there and whatnot. Certainly a lineup that Ryan could pick up some punch outs in the second half there.
Yeah, and I think the same could be said for Justin Steele just with the weather there. So I like all 3 of them. I'd put them all in kind of the same platform. Trying to look, so of the 3, Steele projects to be the lowest owned by a pretty significant margin. So if you want to look into like some leverage, Justin Steele is your guy. If you want to go the chalkier route, Joe Ryan and Nestor Cortez perfectly fine in all formats.
Yeah, I just pulled up the full lineup here for the Yankees, and I shivered here.
Yeah, it's bad.
Volpe leading off, Rizzo hitting second, Judge hitting third. Fine. LeMahieu's hitting cleanup tonight. Willie Calhoun hitting 5th. Oswald Peraza hitting 6th. Frankie Cordero 7. Jose Trevino 8. Aaron Hicks 9. 5 through 9, just question marks. 4A players, not really major league, not full on major league talent there. Even LeMahieu hitting cleanup is not your prototypical cleanup hitter there.
No.
It almost makes you wonder like why they wouldn't just hit LeMahieu second and have Rizzo, Judge, maybe hitting second or third. I know it's at bats. I know that's really what it's about, trying to maximize their opportunities at the plate. But in terms of run scoring potential, that's a weak looking lineup there for New York tonight.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Ryan navigates the top half of the lineup, and he's cruising.
Yeah.
Aaron Hicks is nothing. Cordero has been awful. I am high on Oswald Peraza. Like, I think he can be something. He hasn't been yet. So wait and see there. And Trevino had a good first half of the year offensively last year, and then hasn't been anything since either.
Right. We moved down into the next tier, and this is where you and I really kind of sat in on, especially the top two guys in this 8K range, Eric Lauer and Charlie Morton. Lauer last year had a 2.6 ERA and 13 starts at home. It was really his bread and butter place, is pitching inside Milwaukee. This year, his 3 road starts have been pretty solid. His 1 home start against the Cardinals, not so much, but he's got a Detroit team, nearly a 30% strikeout rate. They're hitting like 200 against left-handed pitching. When we're looking at what is probably one of the more popular plays of the entire night, Eric Lauer's for sure checking that box today.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? He is actually not, and I think the ownership distribution is pretty even across the board. There seems to be like 5 pitchers everybody's getting to.
Mm-hmm.
3 we already named. 2 in Ryan and Cortez, then Lauer, Morton, and then the value guy we're going to mention in Griffin Canning. Like, that is pretty much the mix and match of the bunch. So like, nobody is like standing out in terms of ownership, but I love Eric Lauer. I'm surprised he's not kind of leapfrogged everyone. I guess people just don't want to pay 8,800 for Eric Lauer. I don't think he's worth it, but you've been talking about Eric Lauer at home for like 3 seasons. And
feels like it.
Although he's been tremendous on the road this year, his pedigree has been awesome at home. He's stretched out. He's coming off a start where he almost made it through 8 innings. He has strikeout appeal.
19 or more fantasy points in 3 of his 4 starts this year. So, I mean, that's more than fine.
And now he gets the
He's
Tigers.
got a pretty good matchup here.
Yeah. Who, in the Tigers, 29.7% strikeout rate against lefties. They have a 576 team OPS and a 089 ISO. Both of those are the worst in the league.
Yep.
Sorry. Actually, I gave him too much credit. I was reading the Giants 576 OPS. Yeah. Oh, they're even worse than the Giants. So, like, there's nothing favoring the Tigers tonight. I love Eric Lauer. We're going to talk about Milwaukee's offense that are probably going to power Lauer bars to win.
If you're a betting fan tonight, I did the PrizePicks power play. It's already out there live on Fantasy Alarm and YouTube and whatnot. Over 17.5 outs I took for Eric Lauer today. All he needs is the 6 innings here. Everything on paper is suggesting that he's getting 6 innings against the Tigers tonight. So that one felt like a pretty auto lock for me. Strikeout prop was sitting at 6. I know he hasn't hit that this year, but this feels like a ceiling strikeout game for him as well. So yeah, big on the Lauer props tonight, big in my fantasy lineups as well.
Yep. Lauer power, John. That's my new hashtag that I'm going to start sending out there. Okay.
I like it.
We got to get that started. I mean, I'm sure people in Milwaukee have already. That's
almost positive it's probably out there, but if it's not, you should get it and begin it.
It is probably out there. Someone very creative, because only creative minds would think of Lauer power, right? Like, that's the right.
It rhymes and everything like that. So under Lauer, we've got Charlie Morton here going at home against the Miami Marlins. Miami nearly had a perfect game thrown against them last night. Strider ends up going 2 hits allowed in that one. Now Morton's been a little bit shakier. The walks there this year have been a bit concerning. 10 walks in 4 starts. Strikeout numbers have been okay. A strikeout per inning. He's usually been a guy that's been above that. And then I mentioned the pitch count last night as well. 1 game he threw 104. He's had 3 games where he's thrown less than 90. You would hope that in a matchup here against Miami, he can go 7 innings. I mean, why get pulled from San Diego 6 innings, 1 earned at 85 pitches the way he's running there, right? Kansas City was a blowout, 10-3 there for them. 89 pitches gets taken out after 6. Fine, I can see it. They don't need to stretch them out. So I would hope that we get 95 pitches or they let him go deeper into the game. But this is another matchup where we're pretty strong in on Charlie Morton.
Yeah, and I think what could help Morton maybe get deeper into games here, is the fact that Miami is just such a free swinging team. They only have a 7% walk rate against right-handed bats, and that is 26th in the league. And so part of that they're not walking and they're striking out a lot, 25% against righties. Like Morton has struggled with command at times this year. 2+ walks in all 4 of his starts is not great. But if he's gonna get chases and if Miami's gonna swing outside the zone, that could help Morton limit the walks and give him a couple more strikeouts. I do like Charlie Morton. You and I talked about it on the podcast this morning. It's like I understand getting to Joe Ryan and Nestor, and I understand even pivoting to Steele in this bad weather, but like just saves you a lot of money playing Lauer and Morton or Lauer and Canning, who we're going to talk about, or like just staying in this mid tier. I think they're as good as of options as anyone at the top tier. Um, I prefer Lauer to Morton, but I can't fault you if you need the $200 to get to a big time bat. By all means, Morton is fine over Lauer.
Sure. When it comes to looking at some of the rostership, as we mentioned there, Blake Snell is another guy that's ranking kind of highly here. We're definitely not the biggest Blake Snell fans here. The strikeout upside we know can be elite. Maybe the fact that the wind is blowing in tonight in Wrigley, and we've seen the total in that one dip down a little bit, is pushing more people on to Blake Snell. But he is just incredibly wild. He's the guy that they let him throw 100 pitches, but he rarely goes deeper into more than 6 innings in a game because of it. I don't know. I'm almost hopeful people will go Blake Snell here, and I'll just take my chances on the other guys at the AK range.
If we go listen to the broadcast on the 18th, I'm fairly certain you and I said this exact same thing last week, where Blake Snell was really popular, 8,400 against Atlanta, and we were like, doesn't feel like we need to go there. It doesn't feel like a spot that he's going to really beat us. It kind of feels like that again. Like, yeah, the Cubs have struck out pretty sizable amount of times against lefties, 25.3%. But the Cubs have also, when they are not striking out, they host the 5th highest OPS against lefties. You and I talked about it last night, like Seiya and Happ when we get to the outfield. They host the 7th highest ISO against lefties. They have a bunch of power in their lineup with Patrick Wisdom. Nico Horner is obviously a power hitter as well now. 2 home runs in his last 5 games.
Kind of middle of the pack and walk percentage against Southpaws too, and we know that Snell's a little wild. So
right,
and a lot of these numbers, like you mentioned, they're just getting some of these guys back too. Say missed a big amount of time here, so the numbers could also just be improving as they start to get a little bit healthier there as well.
Yeah, just I don't necessarily understand it, and like for significantly less ownership, it's something you and I talked about on the podcast last night, and we actually went back to the name Jose Barrios. We didn't mention him when we were talking about pitching, but once we started breaking down the White Sox like lineup, it was like, oh well, I honestly kind of have interest in Barrios, and it's not because I think Jose Barrios has been great, because he hasn't, but he's been a little better. And the White Sox are just so damn bad, right? Like everything about the White Sox right now, I don't get it really. Like tonight, John, the White Sox are batting Gavin Sheets 4th.
Yeah.
Like we mentioned the Eloy thing, and they have Luis Robert, but Luis Robert is in a terrible, terrible slump. Jimenez is the only person that really can beat us. Berger hits a home run or strikes out. Like Andrew Vaughn hitting 5th is better against lefties. Like I'd rather take a shot on a lower owned Barrios than Blake Snell. I know the weather.
Toronto's a big favorite tonight too against the White Sox. So there's also some of that win equity kind of built in. And to your point, just looking at the last 7 days, I know it's not like the largest of sample sizes. 167 plate appearances against right-handed pitching for the White Sox. 195 average, 256 WOBA, 237 BABIP, a 570 OPS. ISO's 123, so a little bit of pop, but not really anything special there going on for the White Sox against right-handed pitching over the last week.
Nope. And that's why I don't get the Snell ownership when you have Lauer 300 more, Morton 100 more, and Barrios 400 cheaper. Like all 3 of those guys are like clearly ahead of Blake Snell for me. And I think we understand that Blake Snell does have a ceiling when he's missing bats, but even in those starts, 5 innings, 10 strikeouts, right? Like he rarely gets into the 6th inning and gets you quality starts. So I'd rather go Barrios than Snell, truthfully, and it's like not the same as Jose Suarez ownership Monday because Jose Suarez is a bad pitcher and Blake Snell is not
Right.
that, but like he's merit, like the merit behind him being the highest rostered pitcher doesn't make sense to me.
Yep, I'm with you 100%. We go down into the value range here, and we kind of just honed in on one guy, and that was Griffin Canning. We mentioned, Oakland has been a team that we're willing to target kind of over and over again. Sure, last night, they went out, but we were actually in on Oakland
Yep.
last night. We were kind of in on Oakland a few nights ago as well. Certain matchups, we'll play a Brent Rooker or a Story Ruiz or someone like that. Griffin Canning here tonight, though. Love that he got to 100 pitches. Did it in Yankee Stadium against the Yankees, limited to the damage. 5 1/3, just 2 earned runs. The 3 walks kind of hurt, but 4 strikeouts was nice to see. If he's healthy, he's ready to go. He hasn't gotten a win yet in any of his 2 starts, but if he picks up a win here tonight and gives you just sort of the bare minimum that you've gotten to this point, you're getting 15 or 16 fantasy points from a guy that's under $7,000. If he gives you even a little bit more because it's Oakland here, maybe you get 18 to 20 fantasy points at 6,400. He's the clear spend down on tonight's slate.
Yeah, and he's being rostered as such. Like he is the highest owned, low priced guy. I mean, look, we profiled it on the podcast this morning, and we profiled it, Howard Bender and I on the podcast yesterday, and then Dan Servideo and I on the live stream. It's like Oakland does have guys that hit lefties at the top of their lineup. Griffin Canning being from the right side, they have no pop from the right side against right-handed pitchers, I should say. 24.6% K rate, less than a 10% walk rate. Neither of those numbers good. They're 27th in OPS, 27th in WOBA. Like these guys are better against lefties. Jesus Aguilar has 3 home runs in his last 4 games, all against lefties. Like
Right.
Brent Rooker double donged last night. Lefty, both times he homered. So yeah, I like Canning quite a bit. I know I'm sure some people are gonna get to Jose Buto because just out of disrespect of the Nationals lineup. But I'd rather just, spend $900 more to get to Griffin Canning because I think there's just more upside
Yeah.
on Canning, where Buto like doesn't miss bats at all. I mean, his debut was fine, and look who it came against. Oakland, right? Like his Jose Buto, Oakland, and 5 innings, 1 run. So I like Griffin Canning quite a bit. I understand if you want to just punt with Buto, but no one else down here is worth really any praise.
Yep, I'm with you there. Let's go on over to the catcher position here. Sean Murphy's your top price catcher. He's hitting 4th tonight. He's $5,000. He's homered in back-to-back games here. You and I built out some lineups earlier today. We didn't really find ourselves getting to Sean Murphy. There are some ways to do that here tonight. We like Atlanta. Notably, we like Ronald Acuna, but do you think that it's worth spending up on a catcher here tonight? Whether it's Murphy, whether it's either Contreras here, Salvi's got some power. Do you like anybody in this 4K above range?
Um,
And when I say like obviously they're talented players, but anybody that you would build a lineup around here tonight?
build around lineup around. No, like I think there is a case to be made for Murphy if you're stacking Braves. You could just play their top 4, whoever, because they have cheap guys that you can get to as well. Especially their outfield is really cheap. They have 3 starting outfielders, 2,500 or less. So like if you wanted to play Murphy, you can pay down other spots in your Atlanta stacks. I think that's fine. Wilson Contreras is gonna get the lefty in Manaea after 1 at bat against Brevia. That's fine. Salvi is in a great game environment. He looked really good in Arizona last night. Fine. Mostly, if I were to get to anyone like above, let's see, like above 3K,
Yeah.
it's probably William Contreras, and that's because he's been very good of late. Hits in 4 straight games, a run in 4 straight games, double-digit fantasy points in 2 of 3, and I love the Brewers tonight. Like I've been all about the Brewers since this morning. I told you there's nothing you could do to change my mind. Like there's nothing that changed my mind. Spencer
And
Turnbull
the
is,
cover of the show today is Willy Adames, so
yeah. I
that
mean,
shows you where we're at.
so I think over 3K, like again, I could see getting to Jeffers. He hits lefties well. I can see getting to Grandal if you wanted. Barrios does struggle with lefty bats. I don't think anyone over 4K other than William Contreras really stands out to me.
Okay. Yeah, I'm in a full agreement with you there as well. The catchers I had targeted here tonight, Jan Gomes is hitting ninth against Blake Snell. I know the wind's blowing in a little bit. I don't know if that changes anything for you, but he just homered off Kershaw. The numbers for him, power wise against left-handed pitching, just continue to be real. So I don't mind going with Jan Gomes there. You also have Francisco Alvarez hitting ninth against Josiah Gray at $2,600, and we have Gabriel Moreno, who we like, starting to heat up a bit at $2,600 against Brady Singer.
Yeah, I think those three names are it. Probably Moreno for me specifically. Once again, hitting seventh, but he's in a pretty good spot. Pavin Smith reaching base quite a bit.
Yeah.
Geraldo Perdomo hitting two spots behind him. If we, for some run scoring equity for Gabriel Moreno too. Had his 13th RBI last night. I still think that leads the team, and if it's not, it's right at the top. So yeah, I think Moreno, $100 cheaper than he was on Monday slate, is the clear play. The one guy I would also maybe throw in there is Matt Tice. Like, I assume he would start over Wallach because he gets the lefty righty. He's homered recently in his most recent start. Maybe would get there if I'm stacking against Miller, but Miller also throws like 600 miles an hour
Yeah.
average fastball. So
Yeah, we didn't talk
um,
about Miller obviously at pitching, but I mean, he threw 102.5 was his fastest. He averaged was like
99,
99 point
yeah,
something like that. So
yeah,
definitely gas. Um, fastballs get hit in the Major League Baseball though. So I mean, if
sure.
there's not movement on that, they can launch those things far away. First base here. I built a lineup that had Pete Alonso. I know Josiah Gray hasn't been giving up the home runs that he was last year, and we talked about it because he's not throwing his fastball as much. It's going more breaking ball. But Pete Alonso sitting here with 10 home runs, and he's facing the guy that gave up the most home runs in baseball last year. So I actually built a lineup where I got to Alonso.
Okay.
For me, he is the top price guy I'm putting in lineups today.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? Last year, Josiah Gray struggled horribly with lefties, and I don't know if it's because it's because he threw a straight fastball, right? Like the
Right.
way the ball comes into lefties. Like now he's going to the cutter more. If you're going to throw a righty cutter, unless you're Mariano Rivera, that's just going to cut right over the middle of the plate.
Right.
And Pete Alonso is going to hit a home run. This year, right-handers, 333 average against Josiah Gray, 960 OPS, 409 WOBA. Right into your wheelhouse, John, for Pete Alonso.
Listen, that's what I'm saying. If I'm getting to a 6K first baseman today, or I'll say this: if I'm not playing Rowdy Tellez today,
Yep.
I'm playing Pete Alonso in my lineups here. It's not that I don't like Matt Olson or Vladimir Guerrero or anything like that. It's just that to me, Pete Alonso's is the top option for us.
Well, I'm not going to say he definitively has the most upside because Vladdy had a 3 home run game last year. Olson's already had double dongs this year, and Goldschmidt is going to face Sean Manaea for multiple at bats. But Alonso this year, 10 home runs already. Like he could hit 3 home runs tonight, and you'd be like, oh,
yeah.
Well, he's going to hit 60 home runs. He's the one to hit 60
Right.
home runs this year. So I agree. I think the top tier is pretty clear cut, and I think the middle tier is pretty clear cut. And then I think there's some interesting names in the value section that we could talk about. But the top 2 sections are, I think you and I are both in lockstep, where it's like Pete Alonso top. There's good guys there, but then it's Rowdy Tellez, who also is just hitting everything out right now.
Yeah.
4 home runs in 6 home runs in his last 13 games overall for Rowdy. So that man has been a monster, terrorizing pitching.
Yep. No, he's definitely last 10 games for him, 1,000 OPS, 636 slug. So a lot of power here. Going up against Turnbull, he's hitting cleanup. And what do we talk a lot about, right? Like the Milwaukee lineup generally has a lot of lefties in it, and that's where they're boom or bust. We say it all the time. The Brewers will go out there and they'll score 10 runs or they'll get shut out. Really nothing in between. So I like Rowdy in that 4K range. If we are going down into the value tier, Pasquantino at 3,500. Look at Ryan Nelson's numbers against lefties this year. Not good. I think they're hitting over 300 against him. So I like Pasquantino at 3,500 bucks here. Both Christian Walker and Pavin Smith are in the lineup. Sadly, they only have first base eligibility, so you can't play them both. Walker has more power. Smith is a guy that's getting on base at a higher clip. And then Wilmer Flores is wedged in between that group. We went over the numbers. You saw the tweet that went out earlier today. Lefties, righties, it doesn't matter. You're just smacking Woodford around. Over a 300 average, over 1,000 OPS. Flores this year hitting righties pretty well. Up and down this 3K range, that 4-man group right there, I think I'll go into lineups.
Yeah, so it's funny that Pasquantino is still priced this way, and like we talked about it, I feel
For a
like
while. We've been talking about it for a while. He's too cheap.
he's so good as a hitter, coming alive, hits in 5 of 6, 3 multi-hit games over his last 5 games. And again, kind of like it was last night, where there was only 9 runs total in that game, but the line is once again at 10 implied runs, which is the highest on the board for a second straight night. Not gonna say I'm not guaranteeing the over hits, but there's 2 subpar pitchers on the slate. You mentioned the Ryan Nelson thing.
9 for 31, a 581 slugging, 1,017 OPS against left-handed hitters this year. He has done fairly well against righties. He's holding to a 176 on base percentage, a 180 batting average there. But lefties are just clubbing him right now.
We don't have an official lineup out, right? No, we don't.
I do. Yeah, he's in the 4th. Pasquantino.
Oh, they came out with the lineup? Okay.
Oh, maybe.
I don't see anything official just yet.
Okay, that was it was a projected lineup there. So.
Because I'm wondering because we want lefties, right? If Melendez would play, that would, I think, make this lineup a little deeper because it would give them more. They would have 6 lefties in their lineup, and Pasquantino hitting right in the heart of that could be quite appealing. I love that play. I don't think a lot of people are going to get to him. Dude, Pavin Smith. I know you already mentioned it that him and Christian Walker both, and that Pavin Smith is hitting for contact. Dude, 522 WOBA against right-handed pitching this year.
It's just too bad that they got him hitting down in the lineup. I mean, they have him hitting, was it 6 today?
6, in front of Moreno, which could be interesting if you're running Moreno out there, right? Because you're running a little two-man game. I said that on the podcast
this morning. I like the Smith Moreno 2 stack. I just wish Lourdes just hasn't been hitting up the snuff, right? No. He should be moved down. Get Pavin Smith behind Christian Walker. It gives you that lefty righty sort of lineup build that I feel like most coaches like to go with here. And Brady Singer, as you mentioned, lefty, righty, switch hitter. It doesn't matter. You're just smacking him around right now.
Yeah, it's sad because I'm a big I love the breakout from Brady Singer last year. That was good. So I love Pavin Smith, love Pasquantino. And who else did you mention? You mentioned there's
Wilmer.
A lot of guys. Wilmer. Yeah, Wilmer. If you're getting in Giants, sure. And I don't think Lamonte Wade. I don't know if he would crack the lineup, but if he was leading off, he has first base eligibility as well. We've seen Lamonte Wade lead off, and I don't love him, but he does have some pop atop the lineup. We don't have a Giants lineup officially, but if we do get one during the stream, I'll give Lamonte Wade a little shout as well.
Sure. All right, let's go on over to the second base position. Estrada is there. We like Giants a lot today. They hit right-handed pitching really well. Woodford gives everything up. Estrada, power and speed. Yep. His last 10 games here, he's got 3 stolen bases, 2 home runs. He's got 4 homers, 5 stolen bases on the season. He's expensive. This is, no doubt about it, but you can get to him given we're not really spending all the way up on pitching today, and there's some value that we like. So, we're not going to sit here and, yell at you for paying up for Estrada. If we're not going Estrada at second base, I think it's kind of meh today. And I'm not really We like Horner, but not at 51 generally. Where are you kind of poking your head at second base tonight?
Ketel Marte looks like he's the chalk at second base, which I'm fine with. Like he's been very good of late, and I think hitting a top right at or near the top of that lineup is interesting. I think what is he hitting second tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah, hitting second again tonight. 351, 952 OPS over his last 10 games, 5 extra base hits over that span. So like, yeah, I get it. Brady Singer has been slightly worse against righties, if for what that's worth. But we just touted Pavin Smith, so obviously we like the lefties too. He's fine. Can't really get to Horner when the wind's blowing in 5,100 with a lefty on the mound. I don't think he's going to be as active running. Love Polanco hitting third. Don't love the matchup against Nestor. I love Brennan Drury, what he did last night, but like that was lefty driven, right? Like
Right.
Brennan Drury is a lefty masher. That's certified. That's stamped on his jersey. It says left-handed masher. Don't think he can get there. Although I like him hitting fifth. Like that's a great roster. That's a great lineup spot.
Yeah.
Um, I
He's just not going to get the matchup he
he's
wants.
just
So.
not going to get the matchup. Truthfully, like I'm okay just punting the position kind of. Bryce Terang, lefty righty against Spencer Turnbull. I know Bryce Terang's been struggling a little bit, but
Yeah. I
very,
like Perdomo
very
for the wraparound stack
yep,
there,
agreed.
34.
And like that correlates with your Moreno and
Mm-hmm.
Pavin Smith stack as well. Like you're just playing the bottom of that lineup. We saw just last night the Braves bottom of the lineup plus Austin Riley won tournaments, right? Like
Right.
if you played Hilliard, if you played Rosario, that was what won tournaments. So like you don't 100% of the time need the Ronald Acuna, Matt Olson part of the lineup, right?
Right.
Like if the Arizona bottom half of the lineup comes through again,
100%. 100%. All right. Third base position here. Generally where we like to spend up. You have Riley against Hoeing. You got Arno against Breba there for a little bit. Then you'll have Minaya in the game. Chapman against Clevenger at $5,100. Machado at 48. Hitting third against Steele. Wisdom's got Snell at 47. Rojas is really the guy that is an outlier because he's not a $4,900 player, but he is leading off in a matchup that many feel is pretty chalky tonight against Singer.
Yeah, isn't that unfortunate? Because I don't feel the need to play him. I don't feel like we are gonna get snake bit by not playing him. I guess the one thing Josh Rojas can do is swipe a bag here and there. Like
Yeah,
if he were to get on and have 3 hits or something and steal a bag, like that would hurt. I don't necessarily think it's a must at 49. I would rather get to Austin Riley 54 against Hoeing making his debut.
yeah.
Matt
It seems
Chapman.
like that's the coin flip tonight. You're a lot of people are for spending up or going Riley or Rojas. Where again, I feel like what, if people want to spend 5K on Rojas and he beats me, then he beats me. But I'm
Right.
not gonna pay that price tag.
I mean, what like for $500 more, Austin Riley has infinitely more upside, right?
Yeah,
Because like for $500 more, like we just talked about it, like if you need to save $200 going from Lauer to Morton, you could do that. If you need to save going from uh Nestor Cortez, go to Eric Lauer, that saves you $1,100. So
Mhm.
like there's methods to getting off those top arms to get you to $500 to get to Austin Riley. I feel like that's a no-brainer. I'd rank Matt Chapman, who I think has infinitely more upside than Josh Rojas, because Matt Chapman has been a masher this year,
Yeah.
and he's been mashing righties, 310 average, 3 home runs, 421 WOBA against right-handed pitching. So like Rojas of like this top tier doesn't even rank near the top. And we're not even mentioning Nolan Arenado, who's been great against lefties his entire career.
Right. No, 100%. If we're going down into the mid tier range again, I don't think many stand out. You can play the San Francisco guys if you want. JD Davis this year actually has better numbers against righties and lefties, as we've talked about here. Brian Anderson's hitting sixth. I know we're a fan of Milwaukee here tonight. He's $3,500. But when we did the podcast, we just kind of went to Brett Beatty there, sitting seventh. He's $2,500. I know you mentioned Gray better against lefties this year than righties, but upside matchup, just a lot of things potentially working with Beatty when we're coming to value tier.
Yeah, I mean, I love Brian Anderson as well, but I can also use him in the outfield if I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Like Brett Beatty, 2,500 is still just too cheap. He's looking better at the plate. Hits in 3 straight games. We know the power pedigree of Beatty. I mean, just before he was called up, he was having like a Fernando Tatis esque
Yeah,
minor league stretch.
literally
He's
forced his way to the league.
forced his way to the
They
league.
couldn't keep him down with the way Escobar was playing. They're like, all right, like we got to get this kid to the majors.
So yeah, I mean, I'm in full agreement. I think he is the clear cut spend down if you're not going to Riley, if you're not playing Anderson in the outfield, because Brian Anderson's been fantastic against righties this year. Like
Yeah,
I don't want to just skip over him, and um, he's been good, man. 4 home runs against right-handed pitching, 292 average, 386 WOBA. I know Spencer Turnbull has really, really, really struggled with lefties, and that's why I've like really hammered home Rowdy Tellez. But righties have a 348 WOBA against him. It's not like they're not hitting him hard either. So
Anderson,
um,
great numbers at home this year. I know that some people kind of scoff at home road splits every now and then, but at home this year, 344 average. All 5 of his home runs have come at home. On the road, 234 average, just a 283 OBP. No home runs, only 6 RBIs. Just massive production in a hitter friendly environment there in Milwaukee.
dude, and his teammate. I mean, for what it's worth, like to back you up there, his own teammate in Willy Adames said he could not see in Tropicana Field,
All
and when
right.
he arrived in Milwaukee, he saw the ball great, and then
Yeah.
there was almost 40 home runs a year later. Like, you know,
A
look
good
at
batter guy
Adames,
there
right?
in Milwaukee. So
Right, even with a slide in your peripheral vision, like it's not impeding your power hitting, we're gonna get to shortstop right after this. Guess what? Willie Adames doing the same damn thing that Brian Anderson's doing at home this year. So like for what it is worth, I think there are certain situations where like a player tells you like, hey, I couldn't see over here
yeah,
and I came here and now I can see. Like, I'm not saying that's happening for Brian Anderson as well, but something's going on in Milwaukee that everyone's hitting well there, right? So
right.
um I love Anderson, and I think you bring up a great point about hitting at home
Yep. Spencer Turnbull this season as well. If we're just kind of looking down, we mentioned that he hasn't been very good. We're high on Milwaukee this season. Right lefties are hammering him. Righties doing pretty well, okay, but lefties for sure getting to him. So we talked about Rowdy Tellez. We'll hit up Christian Yelich, Jesse Winker, like a lot of lefties in this lineup for Milwaukee tonight.
there.
In position to do some damage. 581 slug, 977 OPS, but still Anderson and Adames, 2 guys that are hitting righties well in turn, certainly find themselves in our spot. For shortstop, we mentioned it again. Adames is on the cover of everything we did today when it came to the podcast and live stream. He's $5,300. If you wanted to go Bichette or Xander, if you want to play Estrada at short, like you certainly can. But for us, when it's a spend up at shortstop, it's Adames for today.
Yeah, and you know what? Like he's just been so good in this reverse split forever. Like that dating back to his Tampa Bay days since Milwaukee. He just hits righties. He sees righties well. Doing it again this year. 294 average, 4 home runs already, 387 WOBA. So yeah, I think it's a great game environment for him. Spencer Turnbull's been bad. Again, you just profiled the lefties have been worse, but righties haven't been anything to scoff at either.
Right.
348 WOBA. So I love Adames. He's my top spend. I think there's a home run coming from him. And if not, we're having even without a home run, I think he can have a big game. So
Yep. And
because
you
there
mentioned the
is
home road splits, 371 average, a 600 slug, a 1039 OPS at home for Willy Adames here this season. Mid-tier range here. What's sticking out to you? We talked about Perdomo at second. I think he fits obviously lineups tonight as a spend down at $3,400. I always like Birdie just for like the multi-stolen base potential
yep.
that he brings to the table, but he's got 2 home runs now on the year as well. We talked about Morton in his walks. If he walks Birdie, he's very likely to go there. Anybody else at shortstop, though? This feels like, again, kind of another weak position.
Um, so like if I wasn't spending up on Adames, I do have interest in like Lindor 51 because I do think Josiah Gray is still stackable against. I think the Mets are quite interesting. I do have interest in Bobby Witt leading off 5K. yeah, that game environment is incredibly appealing for Bobby Witt and the Royals. And if we do get to MJ and if we do get to Pasquantino, like I think Bobby Witt would fit that stack quite well. So I don't dislike Witt or Lindor. Other than that, though, like there's little to like. Like Zach Nato hitting ninth, he looked good in a couple straight games. So like positive signs there, but I don't know what the upside is on him. So nothing else really other than Witt and Lindor, if not playing Adames and Birdie for some stolen base appeal.
Yep, 100%. All right, outfielder, loaded position here today. As
Yep.
always,
Yep.
um, we talked extensively about Ronald Acuna on the show last night and this morning. Everybody who tuned in saw that. Just absurd numbers, 358 average on the year. Already has 12 stolen bases, 3 home runs, 977 OPS. Doesn't matter if he's home, if he's away. He's just doing the damage here. He's leading off tonight. He is $6,600. The question is all about, like, can you get to him tonight?
Right.
You know, it all depends on where you're spending your money.
It's really hard not to. Like he had the worst game maybe of his season. And it just feels like it's followed by like the biggest game of his season. I mean, he had let's see, he scored fantasy points in all but one game this year, John. He has gone fantasy pointless once. Like talk about just the most secure spend of this. And I think he's gonna get to 7K. And like he's gonna homer tonight, go to 7K. Do I think you need to get to Acuna? No. Do I think it's wise to get to Acuna? Yeah, he has the highest upside of any other player on the slate. So
Yeah,
um
100% agree with you there. Home run, double home run, stolen base, double stolen bases,
three stolen bases and a
three,
home run.
three stolen bases and a home run. Right, it's all in the cards for him tonight if you want to go in that direction. If we're not spending up for Ronald Acuna, though, again, there's just so much talent here from Trout, Ohtani, Judge. You know, you have the Padres hitters here against Steele. Where is your next, outfielder when it comes to price point for you?
um It's I don't know if I'm playing many of these next guys. Like you can obviously play any of them. You can play Otani. That's great if you get to Shohei Otani. I'm sure you'd feel great about it. Same thing with Mike Trout. Aaron Judge can leave the yard against any person on this planet, right? Like that's not surprising. Don't love Tatis. Don't love Soto against a lefty in bad weather. I think Hap is interesting, but considering there's wind blowing in, do I want to pay 5,400 for him? I don't
Mhm.
know. Same thing can be said for Seiya. So I think it really doesn't make me feel good about this 5K and up tier. Like it's kind of just Acuna. We've talked about enough spend ups, I think, at other positions in the infield. We had Alonso at first if we wanted to spend up. We had Thairo Estrada at second and third. Riley at or second and short for a shot. Riley at third. Willy Adames at like I
Mhm.
don't think you need to like force any of these guys in your lineup, especially because I love the 4K. I think the
Right.
4K tier is where we want to live.
Yep, 100% here. As we get down into that 4K range, Patrick Wisdom, we talked about the power again. Blake Snell, definitely a guy that's prone to giving up some home runs if he's not striking you out. Corbin Carroll hitting third tonight against Brady Singer, finally getting the price bump that he deserves. Much to sort of our dismay, we much rather would pay 4K for him, but also to be fair to just building your lineups, DraftKings at least making it a bit more competitive now
Right.
where you have to make some lineup decisions to get Corbin Carroll in there. But he has been exactly what we had hoped for over the last handful of games now. Almost 300, 940 OPS, a couple of stolen bases, and a home run the last 10 here against Brady Singer, 47.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a case to be made for almost everyone at this tier, like Corbin Carroll being amongst the top of them, just given the stolen base and power combo that he has. Same thing can be said for Yelich at 49, hitting the top of the Milwaukee lineup. Um, we talked about the San Francisco guys. Like all we have three San Francisco bats,
Yeah.
4K or above. Jock Peterson, we know has tremendous power. He hasn't flashed it, but we know he has
Well, why don't you
amazing
give
power.
everybody the Jake Woodford numbers there again while you pull it up there? It was we talked about it. The clip was tweeted out this morning as well. Sometimes when we give our first look podcast, you get these like real time reactions. We got that out of James this morning when he looked at the splits, and you're like, "Yeah, this is the spot. Everybody's just smashing this dude." And we know that this year, especially, the Giants are just hammering right-handed pitching.
Yeah, so the reaction was good from the both of us. I think we both understood that Woodford was bad.
Yeah,
And then you hear the numbers. So righties batting 313. Lefties batting 362. Anything you could do, I could do better, right?
right.
Uh righties 1010 OPS. Righties 1000 or lefties 1000 OPS.
You just made the same mistake twice at the exact same time. The podcast this morning, you said you
Did
listed the
I
righties.
really? Did I
Yeah,
really?
yeah, you read the righties twice. Yeah, it's funny.
Uh, well, I was excited to read the righties WOBA
Yeah.
447, lefties 430 WOBA.
Yeah.
Like monster numbers for every. You get a hit. You get a hit.
Right.
Call me Jopra, James Oprah. You get a hit. There's my dad joke of the day.
Yeah.
James Oprah. I like that was a good one.
Yeah, it was
Listen
good.
on
We'll
the
write it
fly.
down. We'll save it. We'll bring it back out when we actually need it.
Thank you.
Hopefully never again.
You get a hit. You get a hit. I know Adam's cutting this up right now in the back, saying
Yeah.
we're gonna break this out the next time we need this, where we're breaking out Jopra again.
Yep. 100%. Yeah, for sure. Listen, I love the Giants. I was the one that was touting them through the whole show during the podcast this morning.
Right.
I was like, Giants against Woodford, that's going to be the top play. If you look at the PrizePicks play that I put out there today, Mike Yastrzemski's on the cover of the PrizePicks play. I took the over 1.5 hits, runs, and RBI line. He's been really good since coming back into that lineup. Again, we need a combination of 2 hits, runs, RBI, whatever you got to do there. He's got multi hits in back-to-back games here. He's hit the over on this prop now. There's like 6 of the last 7 as well. It's a smash spot for him here today. And he's the cheapest of all of them, whether it's Haniger, Conforto, Peterson, Yastrzemski. He's $3,700. The problem is I just listed 4 guys there. They all outfield eligible only for DraftKings. So you got to pick 3, pick 2, pick 1, whatever you got to do there. Yastrzemski's for sure the one I'm locking in. Probably Jock Peterson for the real power. Like I think he's got definitely the most home run potential than the other guys. What are your thoughts on Haniger or Conforto tonight?
They might have 6 guys, by the way, in their lineup that are listed outfield eligible. Because Blake Sable is probably going to start at catcher with Bart out.
Sure.
And he's outfield eligible. And then Lamonte Wade might also just be in the lineup because he hits righties well. So they might have 6 outfield. We'll see. I would say Conforto. I'll go Haniger.
Okay.
It wasn't great in the debut, but he has a lot of power too. And I like Mitch Haniger. Where did he hit yesterday? He hit. I want to know where he hit. I think he hit in the middle of the lineup. I'm going to find out while we go through this.
Yeah,
I would lean Haniger over Conforto. Conforto hasn't looked great since returning from his injury himself. Like things haven't clicked for him because he was off to a hot start.
Yeah.
Righties do have the slightly better numbers. Not that it necessarily matters because Woodford's been better.
Haniger hit 3rd, by the way.
There you go. That's my answer. Mitch Haniger.
Yeah.
That was Giants lineup.
That was against the lefty though. So, with the righty on the mound, they can move up. Like Yastrzemski hit 8th. Will they hit Yastrzemski 8th against a lefty? Against a righty, probably not. So they could certainly be moving some lineups around based off lefty righty splits here.
Yeah, the Yastrzemski thing will move up. I wonder.
I do have like a projected lineup for them. I don't know if you want to just see kind of how close maybe this would be to the real thing, but there's a projected lineup out tonight that would have Haniger hitting 6th. It looks like Estrada, Conforto, Davis, Peterson cleanup, Yastrzemski 5th, Haniger 6th, Crawford 7th, Flores 8th. This lineup does have Bart though in, and you said Bart's out. So
yeah, Bart day to day. He's day to day. He went for tests. I just assume he's not in.
Sure. Are you worried about the Giants pin history? Yeah, listen, Ryan brings up a good point, right? Like they throw in so many lefties into that lineup. If there's a lefty on the mound, would they pull those guys out? I don't see Yaz or Conforto being pinch hit for. Like they're just kind of their standard starting players. There are guys that James and I target a lot of times that were like, yeah, but after 2 innings he gets pulled out, like Nick Gordon was doing. Right, we played Nick Gordon, and then a lefty comes in and he gets 2 at bats.
Kyle Garlick is the
Yeah.
clear example. When he's facing a lefty, he'll get 2 at bats. Mike Brousseau for Milwaukee. Lamonte Wade is that guy for the Giants.
Sure.
Like he'll get pinch hit for. So John, I have the last lineup that they sent out with a righty on the mound.
Sure.
Or against a righty. It was Sands, Mitch Haniger, obviously. Wade led off, followed by Conforto, JD Davis, Jock Peterson. Yastrzemski hit 5th. Estrada hit 6th. So we'll see what they use, but Lamonte Wade hitting leadoff is obviously interesting. Wilmer Flores also wasn't in that lineup. So like what they do at first base probably matters, whether it's Flores or Wade. So we'll see. But Yastrzemski hitting 5th, that's a lock. He wouldn't get pinch hit for if you use him. Jock won't get pinch hit for hitting 4th.
Yeah.
I don't see Conforto getting pinch hit for either. I think Lamonte Wade, maybe Conforto, but I think Yastrzemski and Jock Peterson are pretty safe there.
Yep, that's kind of where I'm at there as well. Other guys that I like in that range, I like Brandon Nimmo at 43.
Yep.
I think he's fine. Again, I know you mentioned the lefties versus Gray this year. Gray's been pretty good, but Nimmo's just been on fire. And then we look in this sub 4K range. What are your targets? We talked about Brian Anderson. Jesse Winker's hitting 2nd tonight at $3,300 against Turnbull. Not his greatest start, but we talked about it like before this recent stretch, he was hitting over 300. He runs into an 8-game where he faces Seattle, Boston. He goes 2 for 18, and his net average is now down to 229. Hitting 2nd is hard to ignore, though, if you're playing the Brewers tonight, and he's $3,300.
Yeah, I have some interest in Jesse Winker at 3,300. It's not like my absolute favorite play, but I do like him in a Brewer stack. I can't sit here and not like Jesse Winker hitting 2nd in a Brewer stack when I'm all in on the Brewers.
Right.
I do think there's some pretty solid run scoring equity. I mean, hard to ignore Sam Hilliard. $2,500 is probably like I wonder if he's like going to be the highest owned value outfielder of the day, just coming off what he did yesterday. Like he's and it's hard to like replicate things in baseball. Like he's not going to go 2 for 4 with 2 home runs and a stolen base again.
I agree.
But he's 2,500, and you've said it all year. You're just punting Sam Hilliard because he's a good hitter against right-handed pitching. In the lineup again against right-handed pitching, against a guy making his debut, probably just plugging Sam Hilliard into our lineups once again here.
Yep, I agree with you there. James, we're quickly running out of time here. Our core pitchers for today, we liked Morton and Lauer in our lineup, and we're looking to stack Giants and Brewers. We'll be in the Discord up until 7 o'clock here tonight. Roster lock time. So if you're not yet a member of the Fantasy Alarm family, make sure you sign up. FantasyAlarm.com/all-pro down below. Promo code MLB50 saves you 50% off the first 6 months of that package here, right through the first month of the NFL season. Of course, we have the NFL Draft Special. Promo code NFL Draft saves you additional 20% off the annual package. Check all of that out over at Fantasy Alarm. For James and I, we'll be back here tomorrow. Good luck here on Tuesday's 9-game slate, everybody. We'll catch you.